President Biden is going to be giving remarks on the economy and his Build Back Better agenda in the next hour, all while Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is fuming over the potential of a watered-down spending package and warning that progressives may not back the agenda going forward. Reaction now from Committee to Defeat the President Chairman Ted Harvey and Democrat strategist Laura Fink. Good to see you both. Laura, first to you, is it possible, could progressives actually vote no on a slimmed-down Build Back Better plan after Senator Manchin uses his pen to cut out certain things in it?
I think you're going to see that pass just like the infrastructure bill passed. It's going to come back to the House, and you're going to see it pass. I mean, of course, progressives are making noise about the things that they care about most. That's their job, to represent their constituents. But this is going to be another Biden W before the end of the year, and it's going to lower health care costs. It's going to lower prescription drug costs. It's going to lower child care costs, and it's going to provide preschool for families. That's going to take the pressure off. We keep talking about inflation, but those things are going to help lower household bills for working families. And that's going to help Joe Biden, and it's going to help America.
But, Ted, Laura mentioned the infrastructure bill. Remember, the squad did boycott or say no to that particular vote because there were some Republicans who voted in favor of infrastructure. I'm just wondering, since they don't have that margin now, because virtually every Republican, I don't know one Republican that's going to vote in favor of Build Back Better. They don't have the margin, so all it takes is a couple of AOCs to vote no again and kill the bill.
Well, I don't think they have any problems of getting it out of the House. I think you're jumping to conclusions to think that it's going to get out of the Senate. I don't believe they have the votes in the Senate. You hear the Democrats just now pointing out all of these great talking points, that they're missing all of the other radical socialist leftist programs that are in there that are nothing more than their wish list that they've been wanting for decades. And I don't believe Manchin's going to vote for it. I don't believe Sinema's going to vote for it. They've got an election coming up in a year from now. They saw what happened in Virginia, and they're scared to death about what's going to happen to them in the next election, and I don't see them voting for it.
So, Laura, is there any compromise between what Manchin would want this bill to look like and what AOC would want it to look like?
I think, David, you're right. Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema are going to set the terms, but you're not going to see AOC and the Progressive Caucus vote against green infrastructure, child care for working families, elder care, lower prescription drug costs, and things that are going to retain the House for Democrats in the long term.
But what if Manchin cuts a lot of that out? That's the question.
I think that, you know, they have proven time and again that they know how to swallow hard even when their priorities are impacted. They know that they need Democrats to retain the House. Do not discount their ability to think strategically. Right now they're in negotiation mode. In a few weeks they'll be in voting mode.
What do you think, Ted? Is there any way that there could be too much of a divide between Manchin and AOC to get this deal done?
It doesn't matter what AOC thinks. It's not going to get out of the Senate. They're not going to get the votes to get it out of the Senate. We've got an election 1 year from today. The Democrat senators, not just Manchin and Sinema, but other moderates in the Senate, are looking at what happened 2 weeks ago across the country, and they're scared to death about what's going to be happening to them in the next election. This isn't going to get through, trust me.
Let me move on here. PolitiFact is pushing back against White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki over her comments on inflation and Build Back Better. Take a listen.
Americans are seeing their dollars, their paychecks stretched right now. Why should Americans not be concerned that injecting another $1.75 trillion or more would further raise inflation?
Because no economist out there is projecting that this will have a negative impact on inflation.
Well, PolitiFact labeling that statement from the press secretary false. And of course, there's a lot of indications that Americans believe it's Biden's handling of inflation that is the problem here. Laura, how do you deal with all this?
Well, PolitiFact has got to be happy they're finally able to give a false. It's been a long time, probably since the Trump administration, since they've been able to give that rating. But I will say this. Economists like Mark Zandi, John McCain's chief economic advisor to Larry Summers, Obama's economic advisor, have said that this will not have an impact on inflation, but it will over the long term have an impact on middle and working class families' budgets. So this is a real help and boon to middle class Americans, and really having moderate to no impact on inflation over time. So that's something that if you read that PolitiFact article, they will say. It really doesn't have an impact on inflation. However, not every economist says it. So, Jen got her words crossed a little bit there. But the fact remains that economists by and large agree that this will have a moderate to no impact on short-term inflation.
You do have a lot of Democrat moderates suggesting that they are concerned about its effect on inflation, from Senator Manchin to Steve Ratner to other former members of Democratic administrations. But the most important number, I think, is that 67% of Americans who disapprove of President Biden's handling of inflation so far. I think when Americans go to the store, if they see things that they don't like about the prices, they tend to blame the power that's in the party that's in power.
Without a doubt. And you look at what prices are right now, they're shooting through the roof, and they are blaming this administration for it. That's why this administration is actually going into the reserves for their oil reserves and bringing out 500,000 barrels of oil. They're afraid of what the inflation is going to be hitting. Million, yes. They're afraid of what the inflation numbers are going to do this week, much less what's going to be next year. When you see shipping container prices go from $4,000 per container to $15,000 per container, that's going to have a huge impact in 6 months. The administration is running scared, worrying about this, and that's why you see the press secretary going out there and trying to lie to the American people, because they can't back it up.
Ted Harvey, Laura Fink, good to see you both. Thank you very much for being here.
You too, David.
After the break, growing calls for the U.S. to boycott the Beijing Olympics as the search continues for that missing Chinese tennis player. A live report from the State Department when we come back.